There is a lot that's keeping State Senator Jesse Hamilton busy, both in Albany, New York, and in his constituency of Crown Heights and sections of East Flatbush and East New York. Governor Cuomo's proposals for free tuition for CUNY and SUNY college students, the senator's own pipeline initiative, the voting rights of thousands of Brooklyn residents being denied. Senator Hamilton, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. It's always a pleasure being here with you.
You've just been named chair of the New York State Banking Committee. Well, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you so much.
Tell me what this position entails.
Well, the banking chairman for New York State Senate is a very prestigious position. New York, if it was a country, would be ranked like 10th in the world, New York State. And a lot of banking services and financial literacy are not being offered in our communities. One section in Brownsville, we have 60,000 people living there and only one bank. And we have a lot of check cash in places. And so what we're seeing is shadow banking, where banks pull out and you have to go to the check cash in place and pay more money. The same thing is happening in the Caribbean, where you have correspondent banks, international banks pulling out of the Caribbean, and you have Western Union and MoneyGram doing the most of the financial services. I was in Trinidad, and I went to an orphanage, HIV orphanage, and I wanted to give them $500. To wire that money from New York to Trinidad would cost me $50. But Western Union and MoneyGram are only paying 20 cents for the transaction, and it's not being regulated. They can charge as much as the market would bear, because the clearinghouse does most of the clearing, and if it's $1 or $1 million, it's the same price. So we're seeing on an international level in the Caribbean, and what we're seeing in our neighborhoods of color is the same thing, where the banks, commercial banks are pulling out, and international banks are pulling out of the Caribbean, and you're paying more money for services. So as the chair of the banking committee, we will be holding hearings on reverse mortgages, which is a big issue now, where the life savings, the family asset is not going to the children. Redlining, we're going to be looking at that and introducing legislation that every high school student take a financial literacy course.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes.
Now, you have a wide responsibility, first of all to your constituents,
yes,
but also to people throughout New York State.
Yes.
How challenging is this going to be for you?
It's very challenging.
Especially a person of color.
It's very challenging. One of the legislation we're introducing is a Mental Health 101, where every teacher in New York State has to take a mental health course. Right now, the second leading cause of death for people of color from 10 to 35 is suicide. So a teacher's in the classroom with you most of the time, and they can identify a mental issue versus a behavioral issue. And that's one thing we're looking at. And we're looking at raising the age also. You have these young men being incarcerated from 16 to 17 rather than going to family court or going to criminal court. And we know there's a disparity as far as young white men being arrested versus young black men. If you're a young black man, you're 4 times as likely to be arrested for the same crime as your white counterpart. And we can't let the prison system be economic development for upstate New York.
Right.
Right.
We just started a brand new year.
Yes.
Your position is brand new.
Yes.
Governor Cuomo has been traversing New York State.
Correct.
And one of the things that's very interesting and very important for persons in education like myself,
right,
is his proposal to offer free tuition,
correct,
to students who are CUNY and the SUNY.
Correct.
Tell us a bit more about this, because a lot of my students have been asking about it.
Right. It's a great idea. It's a great concept.
You said idea.
It's a great concept. Bernie Sanders talked about it during his campaign, but we need to go to the foundation of education. A lot of our students who are coming out of New York City are not prepared for college. So even if you have free tuition, we shouldn't be spending millions of dollars on remedial education when they should have gotten the foundation from kindergarten through 5th grade. And studies have shown that if you're on point, reading at grade level by the 5th grade, you're good through junior high school and high school. In Brownsville, in most of my schools, only 13% of the kids are reading at grade level. So we have a whole generation that will probably not be ready for college. And so I'm all for free college education, but
who's going to benefit? Who's
going to benefit? And right now, the jobs are in technology.
That's what President Obama said. He
right,
said the jobs are going to be the STEM jobs.
The STEM jobs,
yeah,
correct. And so instead of focusing on college education, a free college education is great, but the jobs are in technology and the medical profession. And you don't have to go to college to get that. You can be introduced to that in high school. And so, like in my district, I have 4 hospitals. So we need to have more internships, just on-the-job training, workforce development from our community. We keep hiring people from outside our community to do the jobs in our community. So I would like to see a holistic approach by the governor to get these young men and women who've been disenfranchised for a prolonged period of time the job training and skill sets that they need in order to get a job at the high school, in order to go to college. So it's a great idea, but if you don't have the kids that are not ready for college, what good is it?
Now, how do you fix that?
You fix that by, we're doing something in Brownsville called the campus. You introduce coding into the schools in the 6th grade, and instead of having security officers in the school, you get social workers to identify the problems at a young age, psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers. And then you have to have the parental involvement component by bringing parents in, and then giving them workforce development, and then giving them training also in technology, and then the gang violence. So we have to bring all the stakeholders. We have 56 community-based organizations coming together. So we have the organizations, but no one's integrating them. For the first time in public housing, we're integrating all the community-based organizations to come together. And it's an upliftment to everybody because now we can see a change. Children now are talking to their friends and saying, I have coding in my school. I'm learning how to code. How come you don't have it? And I get a call from a principal saying, I want coding in my schools. My kids need it. Our kids are so bright.
Yes.
We have the brightest kids in the world. You give them the resources and they will excel. Right.
There's been a lot of excitement about your pipeline initiative.
Right.
Talk a bit about that.
Well, right now we have the prison population you're talking about, right?
Yes.
The prison population right now, we need to end that, the pipeline. But our pipeline is with Medgar Evers College as far as having kids on track. We can track kids to play basketball. We can track kids to play football. But we're not tracking kids to be educated from elementary school, junior high school, and college. And that's what we're doing with Medgar Evers College, is showing that to track the kids and those who are not doing well, pull them out, give them the help that they need, and push them back in. And that's what we're looking to do with education. Education is a foundation, Mr. Tate. And if you have education, my grandmother coming from Barbados, you coming from Barbados, the most literate country in the world.
Yes.
If you have a foundation in education, you don't have to worry about a person being on drugs, committing crimes. You have a person that's going to be productive in our society.
So, Senator, we have 2 pipeline initiatives.
Correct.
That was the educational pipeline initiative, that relationship that you've established with Medgar Evers College.
Yes.
You also have a prison pipeline program.
Right. We have $1 million blocks in certain neighborhoods like Brownsville. We're spending millions of dollars on incarcerating young men, inadequate education, correction officers, police officers, social workers. And so we're spending millions of dollars in certain neighborhoods, and we're not getting any clear results that benefit the quality of life in those communities. So we all know that if you're not reading at grade level by the 3rd grade, you have a high probability of not graduating from high school. And since we know that, and the statistics speak for themselves, we should be making sure that every child is reading by the 3rd grade. And we have to put more resources at the early age. So therefore, we're not spending $100,000 a year to incarcerate a young man and woman. And when they come out, they don't have any skill sets in order to be a viable person to get a job in New York City or New York State.
In Albany,
yes.
Do the Democrats have the type of control that you would love the Democrats to have?
Well, the Democrats had the numerical majority with 32 Democrats. But Simca Felder from Borough Park was elected as a Democrat, but he told everybody he would sit with the Republicans. So right now, Simca Felder sitting with at one vote gives the Republicans the majority. At this point in time. And so because of Simca Felder, we don't have the majority, the Democrats in the New York State Senate.
Is that fixable?
Well, the district was created specifically for that segment of Brooklyn, for the Orthodox community.
Yes.
And so as I like Simca, I talk to him all the time. He goes, my constituents are comfortable with who I align myself with and who I vote for. And some of his concerns are vouchers. He's not for abortions. And some of his issues are aligned with Republican issues.
You said some of your constituents constituents, or I guess most of your constituents, are comfortable with who you've aligned yourself with. People have been asking questions about is it a switch from the Democrat to independent?
No, I'm the same person doing the same thing, but just with more resources at this point in time. So, I've known Jeff Klein prior to being a senator, and he's a good friend of mine. And so even before I joined the Independent Democratic Conference, my office still does 11 events per month. We handle 650 constituent services per year, a lot of that being with housing. In my office, I have Brooklyn Housing and Legal Services. I have other organizations coming in to do SCREE and SNAP applications. So, and also I do 25,000 mailers a month, Mr. Tate, to 5 different sections. So I have 5 newspapers that go out every month that has a constituent of the month and a small business owner. So, and our social media is second to none. So no one is complaining because we deliver in my office, and we will continue to do more. So when you look at Jesse Hamilton, I'm the same person with the same values. I'm still a Democrat, but now we're just going to be doing more. And at the end of the day, we have to realize, no matter who's in power, we have to keep getting resources. Donald Trump is going to be the president for 4 years. The New York State Senate, is Republican. We do have the Assembly is Democrat. But we have a national agenda that's being pushed by the Congress, which is the Senate. The U.S. Congress is ruled by the Republicans. And so is the U.S. Senate is run by Republicans. And we have a Republican president. Okay, so
people have been referring to this new world as a brave new Republican world.
It's a brave new Republican world, and we have to be able to go to both sides of the aisle to get resources, because we're hurting in New York City. The highest homeless rate ever. And if you look around, as I come into this building, there's more construction in downtown Brooklyn than ever before. And people are saying, how can we have all this construction and have the highest homeless rate? And that's why we're fighting for the Armory in Crown Heights. When I spoke to the mayor's office, I said, where are the financials? You showed me a glossy book about the project, but where are the financials? I'm an appraiser. I have an MBA, and I'm an attorney. If you come to me with a proposal, I have to look at the financials. And they said, well, Senator Hamilton, no one's ever asked us for that before. I'm like, I said, really? So what's happening, they want to build they came into the community and said, look, what do you guys want? Affordable housing? Yes. Do you want a rec center? Yes. But if you pose the question and say, would you want to have affordable housing, but a rec center that's going to affect the amount of affordable housing, they would have said, no, we don't want the rec center. And so we're going to spend $50 million on a rec center and sell condominiums and have more luxury housing. So when the people who do get affordable housing, once it's built, won't be able to afford the rec center. So we call it the Trojan horse. We said partition the rec center and just build affordable housing, which can be built 100% affordable. So BFC and the Economic Development Corporation, even though we asked for it 3 times, has not given us the financials. And that's when we're against it. This is our land. We have the highest homeless rate, and you're telling us we're not going to show the financials on the bid that you accepted? And then the Slate Group, who has done fraudulent deed transfers, was part of the deal, and they left. But who took their place? They haven't given us that information. So a lot of things are happening in our community, but it's not by chance, it's by design. And we've drawn a line in the sand with the Armory. We're telling the mayor we're not satisfied. Myself, Congressman Yvette Clarke, Assemblyman Walter Mosley, and Diane Richardson is saying enough is enough. We can't have public dollars being used to gentrify our neighborhoods.
So the Armory, that has stalled?
It's not stalled, because they haven't given us the financials, and they're trying to play a wait game. Because the longer they wait, then it can go to the ULIP process. And we're trying to say, we're going to put them, we're letting the public know what's happening. And so we're supposed to be having a meeting next week, and if it's not happening next week, then we're going to go back to the public and possibly file a lawsuit against them, because what's happening now is egregious,
Let's get back to your new position. I was reading a release from your office today.
Right.
And it says that you're going to focus on economic inclusion, expanding access to financial services, combating redlining. You were talking about that just now, but clearly, not just in your neighborhood, but across the needy areas in New York, strengthening protection for New York families. What do you see as your vision, and what would you like to see as your legacy?
My legacy is affordable ownership and generation wealth, transfer. Home ownership, condo ownership, co-op ownership is a way to build wealth in the family and pass it on to the next generation. And that's what takes a lot of people from being lower middle class to middle class and above. People you could buy a home 15 years ago for $300,000, now it's worth $1 million. And those people who are renting now are feeling being pushed out. So rather than pay your landlord for 30 years $1,000 a month and give him $300,000 plus, you could take that $300,000 and let it grow to $1 million and pass it on to your children. Financial literacy is something that's key. A lot of times, like with reverse mortgages, car loans, a lot of people don't understand the dynamics of what they're signing. And so they're paying high interest rates. And we have to have an equal playing field. It shouldn't matter what bank I go to. The color of my skin should not dictate the interest rate that I'm paying. And that's what we're going to be having hearings on, because a lot of times, the same person, the same credit score, same income, the only difference in the interest rates is based on the color of your skin. And that should change. And for the banks who do not come into our neighborhoods, we should have not penalties, but municipal deposits should not be given to them. New York City does not have a bank, but we have a $96 billion budget. So that 96...
Explain that. New York City does not have a bank.
New York City does not have a bank. There's no bank called New York City Bank.
Yeah.
So when you pay your taxes and people pay their fees, it goes to a commercial bank. And the commercial bank is making money off of that money.
Yes.
So we're giving commercial banks $96 billion a year to hold and pay bills, but at the same time, they're not investing in some neighborhoods.
Yes.
So we should say, look, if you don't do financial literacy, financial services in poor communities, then we're going to give that money to smaller banks who do have a vested interest. And we shouldn't have credit check cashing places as banking institutions in neighborhoods of color.
Yeah. A lot of homeowners are becoming ex-homeowners. A lot of homeowners are selling their properties to the highest bidder. How do we get these homeowners to not get rid of their property, to become remain vested in their communities? What strategies can we implement to ensure that happens?
Well, a lot of people are getting older, and you might get telephone calls saying, do you want to sell your house? And we hang up on them. But many seniors are getting dementia. They're living at home by themselves, and that telephone call is to them as a person who likes them. So we have to have more safeguards for people who are older, that they have the mental capacity to enter into selling their home, and also elder fraud is happening a lot. And 80% of elder fraud is happening from family members. And we see a correlation between the housing price going up and elder abuse. Whereas, you might have a niece and nephew, and say, hey, grandma, hey, ma, can you sign this document for me? And you don't realize that it's a deed. And they have and they can get a notary, and a notary is easy to come by. So we have to strengthen our laws with the notaries, number one, with the deeds. We do have a process in New York City where if the deed does transfer over, you get notification.
Okay.
But if the person who's committing the fraud lives in your house, you won't get the notification in the mail.
Fraud also extended to voting. There are thousands of Brooklyn residents who were unable to vote in the last elections. How do we prevent that? And we hear that occurred across the country. This interstate cross-check. How do we maintain the kind of handle on that to ensure that people who should vote are not disenfranchised?
Many states now, not New York states, but many states now are making it harder and harder to vote. And we do have the Voting Rights Act. The question is, do we have enough resources to enforce it throughout the United States? And that's the problem. Everything is local. All politics are local. So in New York State, you may have easy access to vote upstate, but not in New York City. Don't forget, half the population in New York State is in New York City. And so if I'm a candidate and I'm not popular in New York City, maybe I won't get the resources to have an audit done in New York City. So therefore that can happen. And there should be a check and balance. If we do have an audit and we are going to computerization, there should be an independent party that does the audits rather than having the Board of Election themselves doing the audits.
You do a tremendous amount of work informing your community.
Yes.
You use social media a lot.
Yes.
You just said you mail thousands of paper.
Right.
Let's talk about the importance of social media as you see it. You are, not every elected official uses social media the way you use social media, the way Jumaane Williams uses social media.
Right.
Why is this strategy important?
It's a changing demographic that's happening now. My children, they're being brought up on not having textbooks. They have their laptops, they have their tablets,
Yes.
and all information is in the cloud. Myself, I'm still book orientated. So and many of us are sophisticated also in social media, because if you have friends who live overseas, you can go on Skype, you can do WhatsApp. There's so many things now that you can connect with people throughout the world. So with social media, we have a catchment area of about 27,000 people. And we put out information that's helpful. I believe in educating my constituents, making them knowledgeable. I don't want to give you a fish. I want to teach you how to fish. And a lot of times people in our community, they have issues and problems, but they don't know where to go. The resources are there, but they don't know how to obtain them. And that's what we're doing. And that's why so many people come into my office now for help.
And you have these workshops.
And we have workshops all the time. We do anywhere from 11 to 13 workshops per month, be it legal services. We just got funding now to help people who are being deported with legal services. If you go before deportation without a lawyer, there's a 90% chance you'll be deported. If you have an attorney, there's only a 3% chance. And so this is the information we want to get out because other communities have this information. And for some reason, we know if their quota system to deport people, we know they're going to come into our community first, and come after us in the middle of the night. So we're saying, no, we want an equal playing field. And that's what we're doing. So we're trying to get information out there on making sure that no one's taken advantage of, be it a landlord harassing you, what steps should you take, come to our office, we'll get you an attorney, and we'll help you out in housing court.
I think we're running out of time.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And again, congratulations on being the chairman of the New York State Banking Committee.
Yes.
And I know that we can expect changes, you think?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Yes.
And viewers, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, you have your own website, of course.
Yes, I do.
And it's an interactive website.
Yes, it is.
So if viewers need information from you and they're not on your mailing list,
correct,
then certainly when they see this program, they can go to your website and get information.
Just Google my name, Jesse Hamilton, is the #1 hit.
Okay.
Yes.
We will do that. We'd love to hear from you here at Brooklyn45 as well.
Thank you very much for being with us on our Young Academic Achiever program. You understand that you are from McAdamy School of Science and Technology on Union Street. So not only are you an A student, but you have some special interests as well. So why don't you start off by telling us a little about your school and about yourself?
Well, my school is a small environment. What I really like most about it is that the students and the teachers can interact and they help you to excel. And whenever I have a question, I'm not afraid to ask the teacher for help, and they're there to help me, and they are embracing.
So you said that they help you interact. Can you, for example, give us an example of the setting in the classroom and perhaps what type of interest do you have in a specific subject area?
Okay. So in the classroom, there's about 20 students. And since we're a private school, we don't really have problems with the teachers. For example, if I have a question on the history paper, I can go to my history teacher after class, and then I could go to him and he'll be supportive and answer my questions.
All right, and so what about the subjects that perhaps are your favorite, and not only are you excelling in, but what would you say, what are the supportive, perhaps what type of support is being offered to you by the teacher in those subjects that you excel at? And tell us what those subjects are.
Okay, one of the subjects that I excel in and I enjoy is mathematics. And the way my math teacher helps me is if I have a theorem and I don't completely understand it, he'll go through the proof and he'll make sure I understand it. He wouldn't just quiz me on it and be done with the topic. He'll quiz me on it and make sure that I remember it, because it's not only about passing the test but making sure you understand.
Very well, and I understand that you've also done several tests so far, and you have done the ISEE and also the SSAT. Can you tell us a little about those tests?
Well, the ISEE and the SSAT, they're tests to help you get into independent schools. The SSAT stands for Secondary School Admissions Test, and the ISEE stands for Independent School Entrance Exam. And both tests, I took them in order to be qualified for the schools, because each independent schools have a specific score they want you to have in order to go there. So for the SSAT, my score was 2,091. For the ISEE, out of 2,400, for the ISEE, I got in the 880s for both verbal and reading, and I got in the 900s for math and quantitative reasoning.
So by those scores, not only have you done quite well, but what were your choices for this on your application, your school choices?
For the SSAT and ISEE, my first choice was Grace Church School, and my second choice was Poly Prep.
Okay, why Grace School? Why was that your first choice?
Grace Church School was my first choice because they're not really a big school, and based on my research, I see that the school, the teachers are also embracive, and it's similar to the school I go to now.
So you are getting ready to not only select high schools, but you will be choosing college quite soon. Can you tell us about your college choice and also what do you anticipate doing in the future?
My first college choice would be Harvard, and I aspire to be a criminal justice lawyer. And as a criminal justice lawyer, I'll focus on criminal justice reform, because several African Americans are being wrongfully incarcerated.
That is very, very high achieving for you.
Post your comments on our Facebook page, Brooklyn45 TV, or email us at info@brooklyn45.com. That's info@brooklyn45.com. You can see this program and others on our Brooklyn TV YouTube page. So on behalf of our entire Brooklyn 45 team, I'm Sam Tate.